Hopefully, we are now ready for class. Yes, even the number has increased. Today, if I'm not mistaken, we looked at there are some slides I left out in our first lecture, which I didn't look at. And those slides were important because most of the things were there, but I didn't talk about them. So today is what we are starting with. And we are looking at what we're terming as theories of exchange rate determination. Then we are looking at the models of exchange rate determination. We are understanding first what money is. And by definition, we say money includes currency and liquid bank deposits. Currency and liquid bank deposits. Liquid bank deposits. In other words, it may not be only the paper money or coin money, but also the treasury bills and bonds and all other forms of currencies that are used to denote money. These are always included within the financial system of any economy. And what are the characteristics of money? It is used as a medium of exchange, a unit of account, and a store of value. When we say a medium of exchange, in other words, we go on to use money, we give out for the goods that we want. If you want to exchange or to buy a certain good, you give out money. Let us say you want a kilogram of rice. What are you going to do? You are going to give out your money. Let us say if it is, you give out $1, and after giving out $1, they will give you rice. So that is for the unit of account. In other words, to determine the unit you own, we use also money. We can say that, let us say Muhammad Sahalid has got this amount on his bank account. So it is a unit of account. In other words, we use money when we are crediting, when we are crediting bank accounts and the net worth of assets. Then 3, store of value. Store of value. Whenever we sell anything or we buy anything, you have kept your money in that valuable you have purchased. So we use them as stores of value. We use money as a store of value. Why do people demand for money? Why do people want to hold the cash? Yes? Can you unmute yourselves? Why do people demand for money? Yes? Please unmute and tell me. Why do people demand for money? Or why do you always want to hold the money in cash? Adan Hussein, Alexander Ali Yassin Amran Bishal, unmute. Why do you, as an individual, want to hold money in cash? Kafi Abdullahi, Muhammad Sahalid, and Naja Ali Elmi.
Teacher.
Yes.
And when we discuss the demand of money in people demand money primarily to various needs.
Yes.
And desires of lives.
Okay.
For the reasons why people demand for money is basic needs. To do basic needs, security and stability, quality of life, independence, achievement, and status.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Muhammad Sahalid. Particularly, Muhammad Sahalid has talked about the transactional motive. People want money in order to carry out transactions, to buy anything that they want. That is why they need money. Another person, please. Another person, please. The other one was Muhammad Sahalid. Another person, please. Go on. Alexander.
To store value.
To store value, okay. That is right. Adan Hussein.
Yes, Professor.
Yes.
Money provides a sense of security, allows for the accumulation of wealth, and enables individuals to pursue their goals and aspirations.
Yes. Okay. Naja, thank you very much. Naja Elmi in the comment has posted like the three of them. Yes, maybe there are three motives. Maybe there are three motives. One, we're going to look at what we're terming as the people demand for money for several reasons, but we are going to look at them. There are particularly three. So the demand for money is a fundamental concept in economics, particularly in the field of macroeconomics and monetary economics. It refers to the desire to hold the cash or liquid assets instead of investing them in other assets that may yield a higher return. So in other words, the desire for you to have money in cash or is a liquid assets or things. When we talk of liquid assets or assets which you can easily sell to get money, you can easily turn into cash. Those are liquid assets. So instead of investing it in other ventures that may yield high returns, for your case, you prefer holding money in cash. That is demand for money. So we are saying demand for money refers to the desire to hold the cash or liquid assets instead of investing them in other assets that might yield a higher return. Several theories and models explain the demand for money, each emphasizing different motives and factors influencing individual and business decisions to hold money. So motives for holding money, according to John Maynard Keynes, there are three primary motives for holding money. The three primary motives for holding money. One is the transaction motive. The transaction motive. When we talk of transaction motive, we look at the day-to-day transactions to facilitate the day-to-day exchanges. You want to buy food, you want to buy rice, you want to go to Bakaro, use the tuk-tuk, you pay. You want to go to hospital, medical bills you have to pay. You go to the university, you have to pay the tuition. Those are day-to-day transactions. So that is the transaction motive, or sometimes some books call it transactionally motive. Individuals and businesses hold money to facilitate day-to-day transaction. This demand is directly related to the level of income and the frequency of transactions. So in other words, where the demand is extremely high for certain goods and services, maybe the demand for something is extremely high. People will demand, the demand for money by people is going to be extremely high, and also the frequency of transactions. As incomes rises, the transaction demand for money typically increases. That is the first one. In other words, the day-to-day activities as you're purchasing and selling goods. Two, precautionary motives. When we talk of precautionary motive, it comes from the word precaution, to take measures. If something is to happen, what precaution are you taking? So when we talk of a precautionary motive, we need to guard ourselves with money. You don't know what is likely to happen tomorrow. You don't know what is likely to happen in the next 2-3 days. You don't know what is likely to happen in a month or a year. So what do? You keep money such that in occurrence of such circumstances which are not certain or uncertainties, you go on to use that money to cater for such. So the precautionary, we tend to look at things, in other words, unforeseen circumstances. You keep money aside such that in occurrence of that, give an example, a family where there is a mother, father, and children. At any time, a child may fall sick, or a mother or a father. But where is the money going to come from? So families, what they do, they save a certain amount of money for home emergencies. That if a child falls sick, they take portion of that money and they treat the child. So that is precautionary. Take a measure. If anything happens, there is money available to cater for it. That is what we're terming as the precautionary. So this is money held as a precaution against unforeseen expenses and emergencies. This demand is also influenced by the level of income and the degree of certainty in an economy. High uncertainty can lead to higher precautionary demand for money. If the country you're expecting for any political war, majority of the people are going to save the money. They're not going to consume anything. Some they are going to even to save money and go abroad or go to other countries. That is all precautionary. So the first one was the transaction for day-to-day exchanges, two unforeseen circumstances, that is precautionary motive. And the third one is the speculative, the future one. Money is held to take advantage of future investment opportunities or to avoid losses from holding other assets. This demand is influenced by the interest rates and expectations about the future changes in asset prices. When interest rates are low, the opportunity cost of holding money is lower, leading to higher speculative demand. When we talk of speculative, now this one focuses on future expenses, not in the current times. No. What expenses do you intend to carry out in the near future? Say 1 month, 1 year, 2 years to come. So someone may say, after my master's degree, I want to go to, say, Canada, I want to go to this side, or I want to start up this business. So you start saving the money, as which will act as your capital. You start saving slowly, little amounts, and by the time you started your business, that money has accumulated. You started small, but as you continue combining one by one, remember we say one by one makes a bundle, you end up generating the capital that you need. So speculative, most especially, we use it to fund future cases. So those are the three motives, major motives. Other small ones are combined within those three major motives. The first one was transactionally for day-to-day expenses, two precautionary to cater for the unforeseen circumstances which may happen. Then third one is speculative, that is looking at the future, taking advantage for the future. When you want to carry out anything in future, we use the speculative motive, where you demand for money such that you keep it for the future ventures. Then let's look at the key theories of money demand. Key theories of money demand. So classical quantitative theory of money, this one is by Irving Fisher. For Irving Fisher, has a theory which tries to look at the relationship between the money supply, velocity, and price of commodities, and the income or real output. So he looks at it in a different direction, that the amount of money in circulation multiplied by the velocity of money. The velocity of money, we look at how money changes hands from one person to another. Then it results to the prices. Where there is a high velocity, where there is high change in hands of money from one person to another, then it results to high prices for goods and services. So according to the classical quantitative theory formulated by Irving Fisher, posits that the demand for money is directly proportional to the amount of money in circulation. The demand for money is directly proportional to the amount of money in circulation, keeping the price constant and also the level of output. So we are looking at, we're saying that posits that demand for money is a function of the level of transaction in an economy. It is presented by an equation of exchange. MV is equal to PY, where M is the amount of money supply, money supply, then V, velocity of money in circulation, then P is the price of goods and commodities, and Y is the output or real output. So in other words, we are trying to look at how people demand for money. In most cases, what does it mean? Where we are having scenarios where there is a high exchange of money from one hand to another, that is in terms of transactions. Where there are high levels of transactions, the supply of money is extremely high. So what does it mean? It even influences the price for goods and services to go high because of the demand pull, what we term as the demand pull inflation. So if you intend to reduce the price as a result of demand pull inflation, you have to reduce the amount of money in circulation or the money supply. So some of the theories tend to explain the relationship, how we tend to look at this, okay? So according to this theory, demand for money is directly proportional to the GDP. Demand for money is directly proportional to the GDP and inversely proportional to the velocity of money, and inversely proportional to the velocity of money. Here, what it is trying to explain, we are trying to see that is directly GDP. In other words, as the demand for money increases, also the output tends to increase. The output for goods, the output, in other words, in terms of money, tends to increase.
Hello? I can't hear
Sorry,
anything. I'm not sure.
sorry.
Yeah, okay.
No, like my daughter was making some noise, that's why I had to pause a bit.
Oh, okay, that's not it.
Yes. So like we're trying to look at the Irving Fisher, the quantity theory of money, whereby we're trying to say that the demand for money is directly proportional to the nominal GDP. That is, in other words, directly proportional to the amount of money. Sorry. We're saying the demand for money, in other words, MV is equal to PY. What do we mean by saying that the demand for money is directly proportional to the GDP? The GDP, when we talk about the GDP, this is the same as the Y. That is what we are trying to mean. And inversely proportional to the velocity of money. So what do we mean? What do we mean? That, in other words, when we talk of demand for money, that is M is directly proportional to Y. And also M is inversely proportional to velocity of money with the constants, with a constant of reciprocal. So what do we mean? That as demand for money tends to increase, as the demand for money tends to increase, what does it mean? It increases investment, it increases productivity, which increases the nominal GDP, or in other words, the output. So that's why we are saying that it is directly proportional. Then again, when we talk about this, the demand for money is inversely proportional to the velocity. So in other words, if people highly demand for money to carry out investments, then it means that it is going to reduce the hands that it is going to change. So the velocity of money tends to go down. In other words, the rate at which it changes hands from one person to another tends to go down. So when we talk of directly proportional, if M increases, then if M increases, then Y decreases. No, then Y increases when we say directly proportional. When we say it is directly proportional, then Y also increases. Then when we say inversely proportional, as M increases, then this is an inversely proportion with the velocity. In other words, this one goes down. So hopefully that one is understood. So we're saying that Chinese, in other words, according to the theory of directly proportional to GDP, this one is supposed to only be PY, price, and it is not PY. No. So Keynesian liquidity preference theory, Keynes expanded on the classical theory by introducing the three motives of holding money. That is the transaction, precautionary, and speculative. We have looked at this already, whereby we said that transaction for day-to-day activities, precautionary to cater for unforeseen circumstances, and speculative for future investments or expenditures that are likely to happen at a future or later date. According to Lord Keynes, the demand for money depends on the interest rate, as it represents the opportunity cost of holding money. So what does it mean? Whereby the commercial banks give more interest on the saved amounts, whereby the commercial banks will give the one who have saved with them high interest. Most of the people will not hold their money. They will save it with the commercial banks such that they can get those high interest. But where the interest rates are extremely low, majority are going to forego the savings and hold their money in cash because they're not losing anything since the interest rates are extremely very low. So we're saying that the liquidity preference theory suggested that people hold the money to remain liquid and the amount they hold decreases as the interest rates rises. So the interest rates may be on borrowing. As the interest rates increase, then this one affects the amount or the quantity they are holding. So what are the factors affecting the demand for money? What factors do affect the demand for money? So when you look at the factors that affect the demand for money, in other words, we start with income level. Income level. Higher incomes generally increases the demand for money as more transactions require more cash holdings. When we look at the rich people, they tend to spend highly. What does it mean? They need to have more money so that they can meet their day-to-day expenses or the higher expenditures they have to meet in a day. Let us say family has about 5 family members, and then they have 2 cars or 3. It means that as they're moving away from home or going anywhere to work or taking children to school, you have to incur the transport costs. In other words, the gas costs. So all these, the higher the incomes. Now, when you look at those expenses being incurred in terms of the gas expenses for the movement of cars, these ones are not going to be experienced by a person who has low incomes or a poor person. A poor person early in the morning is going to wake up, get his or her own simple food that is a subsistence, and then survives. So we're trying to look at the income, the levels of income tends to be or to influence the amount of money held by individuals. Two, we're trying to look at interest rates. Interest rates. Higher interest rates increase opportunity cost of holding money, reducing the demand for money. This takes us back to the element where he said that where commercial banks give high interest on the amount of money saved on either the current account or the fixed deposit account, it attracts individuals to save their money on those bank accounts such that they can earn such higher interests. So it means that the demand for money is going to be extremely low. But where the interest rates tends to decrease are low. So what does it mean? People, in other words, okay, if I take it in terms of borrowing from the commercial banks, let me take it in the direction of borrowing from the commercial banks. If you're borrowing money from a commercial bank, say at a certain point, the borrowing rate at a certain rate, let us say it is 15%. When you borrow 1,000 US dollars, you pay 15% per annum. You find that this one is going to be about, is it $150 in a year? So this seems to be a little bit higher. Then look at this another situation whereby you're going to pay only 1%. 1% in a year. Out of 1,000 US dollars, you're likely to pay possibly, is it $1 and 10? This is 10. 10% is 100. So if it is 1, it is $10 in a year. So look at this scenario. We're looking at the scenario of borrowing from a commercial bank where the interest rates are a bit higher and where the interest rates are a bit low. So there are two scenarios, one of 15% per annum and another one is 1% per annum. We are seeing that for a year, if it is 15%, you're paying almost 100%, then $150. Then for 1%, you're paying only $10. So what does it mean? Where the interest rates are extremely high, people are not going to demand for money. Why? Because they fear to pay these interest rates which are extremely high. So this one, high interest, this one takes or decreases the demand for money. It increases the demand for money because of high interest rate. People fear to pay high interest on the borrowed funds. That is the scenario we're having. So another one where you're having low interest rates. What happens? Because people are now in position of paying only $10 per year. The $10 per year is extremely low, extremely low. Every person can afford it. So what happens? It increases the demand for money. It increases the demand for money. So that is what we are trying to say. That our interest rates increase the opportunity cost of holding, reducing the demand for money, and the lower interest rates decrease the opportunity cost of increasing the demand for money. Take it in terms of this borrowing from the commercial banks. Yes, I know. I think in Islamic banking, we don't have these scenarios of these interest rates. They are always captured in the financial system, which is called the Murabaha. So for that case, we intend, this one is in open finances where they charge interests for, in other words, the non-Islamic banking. For Islamic, it does not work. For Islamic, it doesn't work. Then 3, the price level. The price level. So when you look at the prices, as the prices tend to go high, people tend to increase the demand for money in order to see that they can meet that needs or daily needs. What do we mean? At home, you eat a kilogram of rice. Maybe a family has about 7 members in a family, it may take 2 or 3 kilograms. Then what happens? Initially, if a kilogram was only, let us say, $1, and the family is taking or is consuming about 3 kilograms of rice per day, it means that in 10 days, those are going to be 30 kilograms. In 20 days, 60 kilograms. In 30 days, it is going to be 90 kilograms, approximately 100 kilograms, times the $3, times the $3, which is going to be the $300. So now that is a scenario when the prices are stable and low. What happens when the prices tend to increase? Let us say a kilogram of rice is now $6. What happens? We're going to see that it is going to become now $600. So what does it mean? Initially, the amount of money you needed to buy enough food for your family is low. So you had to have, the demand for money was low. But as the prices tend to increase, it even forces you to demand highly or to look for more money in order to do what? To meet the transactional expenses. So money needed to buy same goods. In other words, in explanation, we're saying an increase in the price level leads to higher demand for money for transaction purposes, as more money is needed to buy the same amount of goods and services. That is the example I've been narrating, that initially we have been spending only $100. So if it is only $100 and the case in a point, prices tend to increase to $3. So what is likely to happen when it comes to how much you're going to spend? It means that you need more $500, which will increase the demand for money. Okay. Financial innovations, advances in financial technology and the availability of alternative payment methods such as credit cards and electronic payments can reduce the demand for money. So these advancements will reduce the demand for money because this keeps us with money, even though it is not in physical terms, but in electronic means. These tend to reduce our demand for money in cash. For us to have money in cash, remember, to demand for money, we look at holding money in assets, in liquid assets, or assets which or holding cash, or in liquid assets which you can easily convert into cash. But because of these electronic and the financial technologies and advancement, 24/7 or 24 hours in 7 days, you are working with your Wi-Fi, you're having your Visa card, you're having your EVC, So there is no need to hold the money in cash. Because of these electronic or financial innovations, you're now having the money electronically. You can access it at any time, whereby you can deposit it to the bank and also withdraw from the bank directly using your phone. So this one reduces the demand for money. Economic stability. Greater economic uncertainty can increase the precautionary demand for money, while stable economic environment can reduce it. That is the situation where I said that if an economy expects to go for war, expects to go for any political crisis or economic crisis, majority of the citizens, what they're going to do is to demand their money and hold it in cash, such that in any case they can easily move with their liquid assets. So those are the factors which underlines the demand for money. Monetary models of exchange and determination rate. Remember, it is what we're focusing on, but we had to understand what is the demand for money and why is it happening. So hopefully, so far, is everything okay? So far, according to what we have looked at, is everything okay so far? Can I unmute, please, to confirm with me? Yes?
Okay from my side.
Okay, okay. Thank you. How about others? Yes? Okay. So monetary models of exchange rate determination are essential tools in international finance used to explain and predict how exchange rates are determined and how they change over time. These models emphasize the role of money supply, money demand, and other macroeconomic factors in influencing exchange rates. Below are some of the prominent monetary models of exchange rate determination. One, we are looking at the monetary approach to exchange rate determination. Monetary approach focuses on long-term equilibrium relationship between the exchange rates and macroeconomic variables, particularly money supply and price levels. The key assumption of this approach includes the price flexibility and purchasing power parity. So when we talk of purchasing power parity, this one looks at how much a certain amount of money or how much of the basket of goods can you purchase using a given amount of money. That is what we are terming as the purchasing power parity. So absolute purchasing power parity, this theory states that the absence of transaction costs and other barriers, identical goods should sell for the same price when expressed in a common currency. Thus, the exchange rate is determined by the relative price levels in two countries. So in other words, when we talk of identical goods should sell the same price when expressed in a common currency. What do we mean? Let us say, currently, if I happen to ask, let me ask, Amran, how much is a kilogram of sonkor? Amran, how much is a kilogram of sonkor? Yes? Amran. Hamdi Rul Dahir. I'm asking ladies because these are the people responsible. Rul Hamdi, how much is a kilogram of sonkor? Sonkor, yes. Unmute, please.
25 kilogram.
It is how much?
25.
$1.5. 0.5. A kilogram is, no. I last bought a kilogram of sonkoro at $1. Lulu Dahir is saying $0.5 in Mogadishu. Is it true? It's 0.5 because I wanted to relate it. I wanted to relate it with the Ugandan rate. Okay, if it is 0.5, Alexander Njiko, also in your country, how much? Sorry. How much is a kilogram of sugar?
A kilogram of sugar is around $1. 1.2. $1.2.
1.2. This is Somalia. Then we are saying, is it Malawi?
Yes.
Yes, Malawi. Then 1 kg, we are saying is approximately $1.2. Then also when you try to relate to Uganda, 1 kg is an equivalence because it is 3,000 Ugandan shillings, 3,600, 700, which is approximately $1. It is approximately $1. So what do we mean? 1 kilo of sugar is $1.5 in Somaliland. Why is it so expensive in Somaliland? Naja Ali Elmi is saying it is $1.5 in Somaliland. So those differences are brought about by the transaction cost or transportation, also the, what do we mean? The excise duties, the taxes. So look at this. When we talk of the purchasing power parity, we try to use these exchange rates. In other words, an identical item, an item which is identical, which is the same, it should be bought at the same price. So when you look at all the scenarios, this one is 1.5, and this is $1, and then this one, and then this one is 1.25. So it is all 25 kilogram of sugar is $20. Okay, it is Somaliland, Muhammad Sal did. Okay, it's almost 0. If it is $20 and 25 is about 0.8 per kilogram. Okay, so it is almost an approximation of $1. It is almost. So look at this. We are paging $1 to Ugandan shillings. We are paging it to Ugandan shillings, to Somali shillings. Okay, even though Somalis, they are relating it in terms of what? Of dollars, and also the Malawi. So all of them, when we try to page a $1, when you try to page a $1, we are going to say it is an equivalence of 1 kilogram of sugar. So we are trying to look at its purchasing power. In other words, how much a dollar can buy for you. That is what we are trying to mean. So we're saying that the theory states that the absence of transaction costs and other barriers, identical goods should be sold the same price when expressed in common currency. Thus, the exchange rate is determined by the relative price levels in the two countries. That is P star, which is the foreign price level, and P, which is the domestic price. This one is supposed to be only a single E, not a triple E. So this, which is what we are trying to talk about by saying monetary money approach. Then 2B, relative price, that is purchasing power parity theory suggested that the rate of exchange rate in the rate of exchange in the exchange rate over time is equal to the difference of inflation rates between the two countries. In other words, where pi is the foreign rate inflation and the pi star is foreign inflation rate and pi, it is domestic foreign. So in other words, we are trying to look at the inflationary tendencies between the two countries. So then we use it to determine the exchange rate. Then the quantitative theory of money, we have looked at it in details, where we say that the amount of money in the quantity of money relates to money supply, relates the money supply to the price levels and real output. It is often presented by the equation MV is equal to PY, where M is money supply, V is the velocity of money, and V is the velocity of money, and P is the price level, and Y is the real output. According to the monetary approach, an increase in domestic money supply leads to increase in domestic price levels, which depreciates domestic currency relative to the foreign currency. We have looked at this several times, severally, that as our money, domestic money tends to increase, it increases the prices for goods. In other words, our goods tend to look cheaper when it comes to the international markets, and then we tend to lose money when it comes to exporting. So which leads to depreciation, or our domestic currency loses value in relation to the foreign currency. So portfolio balance, in other words, we're trying to look at how, even though the exchange rates tends to keep on changing and they're determined by different methods, how do we keep them in balance? So portfolio balance model considers the role of financial assets in exchange rate determination. It posts that investors hold portfolios consisting of domestic and foreign assets, and that exchange rates are determined by the supply and demand for these assets. How do the foreigners tend to determine the amount of portfolios they hold? So we are saying it consists both the domestic assets and then the foreign assets. So key features: investors balance their portfolios based on the expected returns and risks associated with domestic and foreign assets. Then changes in monetary and fiscal policies can affect the attractiveness of domestic and foreign assets, influencing. Then implications: an increase in supply of domestic bonds financed by an increase in money supply can lead to depreciation in domestic currency. Why? Because it is increasing the amount of money in circulation or money supply. Conversely, a decrease in supply of domestic bonds. What does it mean? It reduces the amount of money in circulation. So this one appreciates the domestic currency. In other words, less money in circulation reduces the money supply, and also with money supply being low, it appreciates, or the domestic currency tends to increase value. Then fixed and managed exchange rates. I think I explained these in details in our previous classes. And by definition, we said that, by definition, we said that a system where value of money is pegged to another currency or basket of currencies. For example, Hong Kong dollar pegged to the US dollar and pegged to a euro. Mechanism, in other words, it is always done by the central bank, maintains the currency value by buying and selling foreign reserves. Advantages of fixed: predictability and international prices. These ones, I looked at them in some of our previous classes. So the reason as why I had to go back for this, I wanted you to get to know the methods of money determination and how these two fixed and managed exchange rates, how are they different? Fixed is highly volatile and low flexibility, while managed is always moderate and high flexibility. Then monetary policy, when it comes to fixed monetary exchange rates, it is limited. When it comes to managed, it is moderate. Then economic adjustment, fixed is rigid. In other words, it is difficult to be changed. But when it comes to managed exchange rates, they are adaptive. In other words, they can easily be managed. Okay. This marks the end